Yes.
Hello, and thanks to Izabela, or shall I say Neferim, for joining me on KJO Meet the Artist today. Izabela, your work is full of energy and great fun. It'd be really useful for our KJA and White Light NFT communities to find out a bit more about you and what has inspired and driven you to your huge creativity. So welcome.
Oh, well, thank you for having
me. So, first question. It's a simple one, I hope. So how long have you been illustrating and creating?
Well, unofficially, probably since I was around 3 years old. I've always known that I wanted to draw. You know, instead of playing outside, I would always just walk around with pencils and books. But officially, I would say around 15 years. In my mid-20s, I decided that I want to do professional.
Okay, cool. And the family that you come from, are they creative? Is there an artistic bent within the family?
There is, yeah. My father was a musician, and my mother, she's always been into crafts, and she's an amazing gardener.
Okay, and did you inherit both of those talents as well?
No, absolutely zero musical talent, and it will take a lot to get me to stick my hands into the dirt.
Okay, yeah. No, I have. It's one of the biggest regrets I have in my life is that I'm not musically talented at all, and yeah, tone deaf and cannot play an instrument. But yeah, I'm very envious of people like your father, musicians.
It's a tragedy, isn't it? Because as artists, we get so deeply inspired by music.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I always see people up on stage, and you can see they've lost themselves in their music. They've transcended. They've gone to another place, and it would be really lovely to be able to feel that. That would be amazing. So, second question: how would you describe your style, and what area, if any, would you say you specialize in?
Well, I do children's work as well. So that's one style I specialize in. But for my Nephrom work, I specialize in fantasy, sci-fi, and I like to create work with some sort of, for lack of a better word, spiritual, mystical meaning.
Yeah.
It's something that will make people reflect on the deeper parts of human nature.
Fantastic. And what's your go-to choice in terms of software, or do you use a mixture of different softwares for creating your work?
I work mainly in Photoshop. I find you can create anything in Photoshop. It's very versatile. But if I need some really clean line work, which I rely on for my children's work, I go to Clip Studio.
You go to
Clip Studio.
Okay, all right. I'm not familiar with that, but you'll have to.
Oh, it's excellent for a comic book. Yeah, a lot of comic book artists use it. It's really good, really clean lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that vector based?
No, I think they do have a vector option, but it's not exclusively vector. It's very different from Illustrator as well. It's very similar to Photoshop, but they have this function where you can stabilize the brush, and as you're doing long lines, they kind of stabilize it for you. They figure out what you want to do, and they do a good job.
Oh, nice, lovely. Yeah, that's always the thing in Illustrator with the freehand tool. It's just it's difficult. It's hard work.
And the pen is way too rigid, right? So the Clip Studio kind of takes care of that problem.
Okay, that's a good hack. Thank you.
Yeah.
So has your style and content of the imagery you produce changed over the years, would you say?
Oh, yes. I started mainly only in children's work, so doing a lot of cartoonesque work, and now it's very painterly. And I went from, cute little cartoons to sci-fi space scenes. So it's changed as much as probably art can change.
Yeah, a huge genre change.
Yeah.
And who or what would you say has been your biggest influence over the years?
Well, hands down, for my children's work, Walt Disney. I grew up in communist Poland, so the first time I saw an animated cartoon was a mind-blowing experience, and learning about his life and how he created this incredible company out of nothing.
Yeah.
was just incredibly inspiring to me. But as I progressed into my more fantasy and sci-fi style, I really like a lot of the NFT artists on the market right now, like Bill Ellis and Rafa Grassetti. They also do concept work for big films, and they are just like modern day Michelangelo. They're
Yeah, yeah.
incredible.
No, it's the whole concept scene is just mind blowing. The things that these guys and girls produce, just incredible. And obviously, the whole Disney and back catalog type thing has inspired you. But where else do you find inspiration? Would you say?
Definitely music. A lot of I listen to a lot of soundtracks. From epic films to games, but also great literature. I love reading sci-fi literature, and just one of my favorites is Arthur C. Clarke, and the way he describes worlds in something like Childhood's End. I think I remember the title properly. Um, it was just incredible. He describes all these different planets, and even in 2001 Space Odyssey, how the soul can travel or whatever it was that he described. To me,
Yes.
those fascinating concepts that have to be painted.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. It's quite interesting. You were saying about music and literature, because quite a few of the artists have said the same thing. That's really inspired them. So you're not alone.
Oh, well, yeah, the music, it gets the emotions going, right? And a
Yeah.
great story, it already paints a picture for you that as an illustrator, it's only natural to go fill it in with the thing that's beyond words, which is pictures.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Zoe tried to escape. Um, and I asked this of all the artists. Do you have a favorite time of the day to create? Are you a night owl?
Yeah, I am an owl that works through the entire night, not even into the middle of the night. I love working at night.
Yeah, no, it seems to be the way. Everybody seems to have a slow start and do their prep maybe in the day. But when it comes to nighttime is when they do the serious graft and they really get down to it. It's quite interesting.
Really? So I'm not alone in this because I keep thinking there's something wrong with me. I need to change this, but it just feels so much nicer to create at night. But you're telling me that others are doing it too.
Almost exclusively. Yeah, yeah. It just seems to be our way. Those of us were born with some sort of artistic talent. It's just the natural go-to. Plus the fact in this day and age, the phone isn't going in the evening, and you're not doing emails. So it's time to escape, really.
Well, also when it's a beautiful day, artists, I know I get a lot of going back to the inspiration question from nature as well. On a beautiful day in a beautiful park, it just does something to the soul. So if it's a beautiful day, I want to take the time to go out there and enjoy the day and not work. And then I'll have such a more productive day or work session at night.
Okay. And the other something that I found, and quite a lot of people when I've talked to them about it have said the same thing. I always used to find when I was working full time as an illustrator, making those first marks in the morning and when you first started work were really difficult. Do you find the same thing?
It's not only difficult, impossible. Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder what exactly drawing is, because even though the muscle memory is the same, there just seems to be no connection between the brain and the hands.
I always used to worry that is today the day they find out that I can't do this.
This morning will be the one.
Yeah. Well, I got away with it for a long time. And now we have people like you that have to worry about that, and I don't have to worry about that pressure first thing in the morning. I just have to worry about finding you guys a lot of work.
Yes. And pray that we make it or we finish it on time.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you consider to be your top 3 pieces of art, and why do you think that they best represent you or show you off to your best?
Sure. Well, one of my favorite pieces now is a piece I just finished. It's for a young adult book that's coming out in April called the Thirsty Aquarium. And I designed the cover. I illustrated and designed the cover, and I think it's just one of the nicest pieces of art I've ever created. Just the color palette and then the theme of it. So I like that one. I also like the portrait I created of Laika, the space dog, the Soviet dog that the Soviets sent into
Yep.
in Sputnik 2,
Yes.
I think. And I created a portrait of her, and that one sold on Virtua for 1 each. So I was really proud of that. And the third one that I'm very, very proud of is I created a portrait of Jesus that I've had in my mind for a very long time, just kind of capture what people, what he means to people. And I think, if I may say, I think I got it really close. It seems to touch a lot of people, and I really like that image as well.
Okay, that's wonderful. So very spiritual as well.
Yes, yes.
And how would you say you continue to develop your skills and keep current?
I admit I'm not that current. I should be.
That's not true.
Yeah, you think, okay, good to hear. I try to give myself an assignment with every project. So if I'm working on a children's book, I might make trees my focus to really do something interesting with the trees. Another one, I might assign myself, color palette to come up with a really interesting color palette and lighting scheme. So that's the way I train myself. So every project, the client will get something really interesting, and I'm pushing myself. And I usually give myself only one assignment because it would be too much to kind of push boundaries on these multiple things.
Sure. So each project you come to, you're changing and adapting and evolving. Is that what you're saying?
I think adapting would be the one, or refining. Yeah. Okay. And once in a while, I try something completely new. Yeah. But most of the time, it's just pushing it a little bit further, things I can make it more interesting.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I know you've been very heavily involved in our white light NFT side. So what's your interest in NFTs, and what was the inspiration behind Apetrix, your range of NFTs that soon, hopefully, will get out into the wide world for you?
Yes. Well, NFTs, I think, are a really exciting platform, not just for the creators, but for collectors as well, because they get to connect directly. Before, especially for illustrators, there was always a middleman, and now it's direct to the audience, and the illustrator gets, or the artist gets to create what they feel, as opposed to commission, and then the right collectors come. Hopefully. So I really like that. It creates a lot more independence for both, right?
Yeah.
And as for the Apetrix, that came from observing the world and getting really worried, and just seeing that there's a lot of systemic power, and many could argue that there's system overreach, government overreach, especially corporate overreach. And I created a collection where these monkeys are trapped in a matrix. It's called the Apetrix. And some of them are very deeply entrenched. They do whatever the system tells them, and others are starting to wake up and they begin to rebel. And so I'm hoping to create several collections, but the first one is just going to be about the awakening process and the different degrees to which the monkeys are plugged in.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably a true reflection of what's going on in the world with humans, isn't it? It's I think it's a complete mirror. Some people are just diligently doing what they're told to and believing everything that they're fed, and others are standing up and saying it's not really the way it is. So that's brilliant. It's fabulous. Well, we're very much looking forward to getting that out into the world and pushing it through White Light NFT and seeing your first collection sell out. So,
oh, well, it would be a dream because it's been a year in the making.
Yeah, no, it was. I remember when you first sent the idea to me, we were really blown away by it, because there was such depth of thought to it, and the signals that were being sent and created. So yeah, no, well done. It's brilliant. and hopefully the rest of the world, well, no, not hopefully, the rest of the world will understand it and very much buy into it for you, because it's a powerful message, as a metaphor. So Izabela, thank you so much for joining me today, and giving everybody a bit more of an insight into you and what makes you tick and what makes you create. I think it's been great insight. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and to talk about my work. I really appreciate it.
Okay, well, good to speak to you today. Thank you.
Bye-bye.